So The Mandalorian Episode 2. Well, I don't really have much to say about this one, as it just really felt like a filler episode to me. It was still cool, don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed it, but it felt like, it should have belonged to part 1, which, herein lies my theory. I think Episode 2 is really Episode 1 in its entirety. However, they just split it up because they want us to kind of maybe, have more of an episodic feel or be more attached to the show or keep us more on a cliffhanger. So I think maybe when the next episode, Episode 3, comes out, which is actually, in my opinion, going to be Episode 2, that one hopefully will be closer to 45 minutes to an hour. But I could be wrong, could just be another 30-minute episode, which I hope not. So, what happened in this episode? Not really a whole lot. I mean, there were a few Easter eggs here and there, but I just feel like making a 10-minute video out of that would be kind of redundant and it's pointless. So, basically, the Mandalorian protects Baby Yoda, and I'm just going to call him Baby Yoda from here on in until we know further what his actual name is. And by Baby Yoda, I mean he's either a Yoda species or he is actually a clone of Yoda, but not actually Yoda himself, because at this point, Yoda's dead. It's 5 years after Return of the Jedi. Come on. So the Mandalorian is basically protecting Baby Yoda, and he fights off a bunch of Trandoshans, or at least I think they're Trandoshans. They kind of look like them, but they look a little bit different as well. And what he notices once he defeats all of them is that they have trackers to Baby Yoda as well, which is a big issue because it means that these bounty hunters are basically going to be coming after him forever until he delivers Yoda back to the Empire or whoever those guys are. Now, the scientist, I'm going to make more of a video about this because I know the internet's going crazy about it. And this was actually my first theory for my first breakdown video. You can check it out. Is that Yoda is actually a clone. And why do people think this? Well, because the scientist, Dr. Parsing, has a Camino badge on his shoulder. He's very attached to Baby Yoda, whereas Mr. Herzog's character is actually, in favor of just killing it, whereas the scientist, just wants him to live. This tells me that he nurtured the child, and since the child is 50 years old, he clearly has had at least a few years with him. Or her. I mean, who knows? It could be a Baby Yoda girl if it's just a species. So then the Mandalorian tries to leave, but then he sees that the Jawas have just stripped his entire ship, the Razor Crest, of every single part that there is. Literally, there's like nothing left. So he finds them and tracks them down and then incinerates a few of them, which was actually really a cool scene for me. Then we get the whole sandcrawler scene where he tries to scale the entire thing, but of course, that fails. He gets to the top and there's like 10 of them. They just stun him with their guns. It paralyzes him. He falls to the depths of the land below, and he's just knocked out unconscious for a little bit. And it's cool because we can see Baby Yoda is now attached to him slightly by the the movement of his ears. He gets sad when he sees the Mando is down. He gets happy when he sees the Mando is up. Another cool thing that I saw was that Baby Yoda likes to eat frogs, so he's actually kind of carnivore. We would think that Yoda is so, pro the Force and pro all sentient beings, but in this case, it seems like Baby Yoda is just, he's hungry, he's just gonna eat it. This is a huge deal. I mean, we've never seen Yoda's species in Star Wars other than Yoda and Yaddle, and seeing a Baby Yoda species is just absolutely mind-blowing. So seeing him like this is just something completely different that we've never seen before. So then he goes back to Kuel, which I hope I'm saying that name right, which is actually Nick Nolte's character, and he ends up asking him for help, and he ends up helping the Mandalorian, of course. He tells him that the Jawas don't steal, they just strip things. So they go and they make a deal, and the Mandalorian basically has to go on this little Easter egg hunt, literally, where he has to get the egg from the Mudhorn. Now, the Mudhorn is kind of like a reek-looking species, which we saw in Episode 2, where Anakin tried to control the beast. And while he's not a reek, he does look a lot like one, but he's just massively huge. Yoda ends up showing his Force powers, which the Mandalorian is completely confused by. He just doesn't really understand how this is possible, which is kind of a surprise to me because the Jedi have been the keepers of peace in the galaxy for thousands of generations. So it's just strange that he would forget about all of that. However, he was in the Clone Wars and he was a foundling, so which means that his parents abandoned him, or they were killed actually, or taken. And he didn't really get to see much of that era, I guess, depending on where he was. And of course, he knows about the fall of the Empire, so now he believes that the Jedi are no more, and maybe he's heard stories and things like that, but obviously doesn't know all that much about them. So, long story short, he fights the Longhorn, and then Baby Yoda uses his Force powers, lifts the Longhorn in the air, and drops him, and when the Mando just kills him with one stab in a perfectly articulated area, which I guess would be his like vein or his brain or something like that. Baby Yoda is exhausted from this feat, so we can see that he's extremely powerful. However, he's of course not fully developed yet. He goes back to the Jawas with the egg, gives them their food. They slice it open and take the yolk, and they start eating it, and they're just, you know, happy and little weirdos. He gets all of his ship parts back. He says goodbye to Cool, and then he just blasts off with Baby Yoda. And it seems like they're about to go on an adventure together. And it seems to me like he's going to basically protect Baby Yoda as much as he can, you know, to the death. And Baby Yoda will do the same for him, as we saw him use his force powers to the point of exhaustion where he passed out after saving him from the Longhorn. So that's the review of the episode. I hope you guys are ready for episode 3, coming out next week, Friday. Of course, I'll be having many more reviews and videos in that time, and of course, with every single Mandalorian episode that comes out. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit a like on this video if you enjoyed this type of content, and stay tuned for the Jedi Fallen Order stream coming later today. Hope you all have an awesome one. Until then, remember, the Force will be with you always.
Now, fulfill your destiny.